On this episode, we talk about the Buick Cascada. We also answer a lot of reader questions about SUVs next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shanhar.
And I'm Mike Monticello.
This episode, we're going to start first with a question. 100 episodes, and yet they haven't let the Cascada get a word in edgewise. Obviously, someone is actually paying attention on these episodes, and when we did episode 100, we had the Buick Cascada parked behind us, and we didn't say a thing about it. So we're going to make up for that horrible, horrible transgression. Mike, what is this?
Well, I mean, it's a four-seat convertible, but it's just not fun to drive. You know, there's nothing really thrilling about this car. It's not that fast. It's kind of heavy. The infotainment system is like old, and the interior looks a little bit old. I mean, you know, it's a car that's been brought over from Europe, from Opel, and it just doesn't. There's just nothing to get excited about it, except the fact that it does have a power top, and so that aspect is fun. But while you're driving it, you're never really. There's nothing jazzy about it.
The thing is, though, is what other choice do I have if I want a front-wheel drive convertible that isn't a ton of money?
Well, that's the thing. With the demise of the Chrysler convertible and the Toyota Solara
The
and all
Sebring's
those
gone, the EOS
affordable,
is gone, everything's
exactly.
gone.
So good timing for the Cascada. I mean, I'd say as a convertible, it's really focused on what's important in a convertible. It has a nice power top. It opens and closes on the move. It has a seat belt presenter, nice detail. It has a wind blocker, not too much buffeting. So as a convertible, I mean, you're gonna have to pay like $60,000 for a BMW, Audi, or a Mercedes convertible to get these kind of features in a convertible. Yeah, Mike is right. I mean, it's not exciting to drive, but most people that buy convertibles aren't looking for excitement. They just want to look good and have some air in the face.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not exciting to drive. You know, the thing weighs close to 4,000 pounds.
It's heavy.
It's powered by a 1.6 liter turbo that makes 200 horsepower. I think 0 to 60 is floating around 9 seconds.
Yeah, fuel economy is not that good.
No, it's like 20, I think it was 22 overall.
Yeah,
something like that.
22 or 23 overall, which is SUV territory, and that
Like
ain't
a V6 SUV.
that ain't no
three-row.
SUV.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's almost to me sort of like complaining about a Wrangler, a Jeep Wrangler, in that there's just not a lot else out there. You know, you could get a Mustang or a Camaro.
Yeah, but that's a totally different animal, and those cars are not very well thought out convertibles. You can't open, close the top on the move. It's they're very not well finished. I mean, here you get like this, tonneau cover, and everything is nice and neat. And rear seat in those cars is atrocious.
I think if you're someone that just cares mostly about having a convertible, it's probably a pretty good car for you. If you care a little bit more about the driving, you're going to look at a BMW 2 Series or an Audi A3 or something like that.
For which you'll pay
More.
almost $10,000
Yeah.
more, probably, once you equate the options.
Yeah, those are the most similar in concept to the Cascada. But yeah, it's another thing is I'm not sure that this car really belongs as a Buick. Does it belong in the brand?
The brand is like the international house of bargains right now. I mean, it's just everything they could pick up from the GM global inventory and lump it all together in the Buick showroom. You know, you have the.
It sounds like clearing the warehouses.
Well, no, I mean, you have the South Korean built Encore, and you know most of the design was done overseas. You have the built in China Envision. You have this, which is built in Finland and is
No,
basically
it's built in Poland, actually.
Oh, Poland, thank you. You have these, you have this clearinghouse.
Well, so then it's not a cohesive, bunch of vehicles. You know, they all feel different from each other.
They do, and they try to make them look the same with portholes, on the hood and too many buttons in the dashboard. But
it just feels old inside that car.
And I have to say, I think I saw maybe 2 Cascadas other than ours on the road. So I have a feeling it's not doing very well.
I also never know if it's Cascada or Cascada.
yeah, no, that's
my biggest problem
I
with the
think
car.
it's
It's like tomato and tomato.
I think it's Cascada, but I'm sure YouTube comments will argue over which one it is. So go at it, guys. I think we don't see a lot of them on the roads in Connecticut because I assume many of them are in rental fleets in warm weather states. I assume if I flew into the Tampa airport, there would be a wide variety of Cascadas waiting for me.
I think so.
And in that regard, it's probably not a bad car,
Yeah,
but not too exciting.
yeah, it's a nice vacation car.
Yeah, there you go. Bryce Carlson asks, my generation grew up in the backseat of SUVs. The generations before me, minivans and station wagons. When those previous generations grew up, they would not buy minivans or station wagons because they were uncool parent cars. Will the SUV trend ever die out, or are they with us now and forever until death do us part? Will SUVs go out of style?
I think they're with us forever. That's my personal opinion. They make too much sense for most people. You know, they like that higher stance, the good headroom, the good cargo room, the fact that they, you know, some of them can go off-road a little bit, but they're basically, you know, most of them are based on cars these days. So they ride nicely, they drive nicely. So it just makes sense for most people. I grew up as, you know, we had a station wagon, we had a Volvo 145 station wagon, and my parents had that forever. And I didn't care back then that we had a station wagon, and I don't care now. You know, I just took a trip in our Chrysler Pacifica minivan, did a 1,200 mile road trip, me and my girlfriend and our bicycles. And I don't care that I'm a single guy driving a minivan. It doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people, there's a stigma about station wagons and minivans. And I'm over it. I think people need to get over it and just go with what makes the most sense.
You raise an interesting point, though. As a car guy, you didn't care what your parents drove back then?
Well, my dad, you know, he put a different exhaust system on the Volvo, and I'm serious. It was like an Anza exhaust or something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing had like maybe 90 or 100 horsepower, but it was a manual.
Was it a stick?
Yeah, it was manual. We also had a Volvo 544, also a manual, different exhaust. And so he worked on the cars himself. And back then, it seemed like an okay car.
I ask because I know, you know, my friends who do have kids. We don't have kids. Some of my friends obviously do. Their children are not car people, but they still don't like the cars that their parents drive, and they're ashamed by them, you know, the little brats.
Right.
So anyway, Gabe, what do you think of this? Will SUVs go out of style?
I don't think so. I think the SUV phenomenon is much more rooted than minivan and station wagon. And I also have an affinity.
Minivans were really rooted for a while.
Yeah, but you have to acknowledge that SUVs are not only fashionable, they also make sense. And you have
minivans make sense.
Yeah, they do. But minivans are a very defined kind of thing. One size, pretty much like very
Sliding
limited.
side doors.
And the format is very uniform.
Yeah, you're right.
With
there aren't
SUVs,
small
you have a
minivans.
variety. You have all sizes, all types. You have luxury SUVs, sporty SUVs, stylish SUVs. And I think the off-road component is completely irrelevant these days. So they're here to stay, just like Mike said. And even though I have an affinity for wagons as well. I mean, we had the Fiat 131 station wagon in our family, and I owned, when my second child was born, I said, okay, well, can't have a sedan anymore. 2 kids, all the equipment, gotta have a wagon. We bought a Passat wagon, manual, of course. But I think SUVs are, I'm on record predicting that SUVs are going to replace sedans eventually.
I think you're right. First off, the SUVs aren't that far removed from station wagons and, you know, and minivans. You know, the like a GMC Acadia, the last generation before the redesign, that thing's a minivan. A Ford Flex is basically a minivan without power
They're
sliding
minivans,
side
especially
doors.
those SUVs that come with captain chairs in the second row. The interior.
Yeah, they aren't
is
quite
just
as
like a
roomy, but
minivan,
they're
yeah.
really close.
They're just rebodied so you don't feel like, you know, minivan mom or minivan dad.
Yeah,
That's what.
you don't feel defeated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally a game of image and labeling, and nobody wants to be seen dead in a minivan.
Right, and I mean, a
That's just-
Subaru Forester's a station wagon. You know, it's just a Mazda CX-5 is basically a slightly higher station wagon.
Well, the proportions are different.
A little bit,
The
but-
SUVs are shorter and taller, and wagons are longer and lower. So,
Functionally, it all comes out in the
functionality.
wash.
Yeah.
I am seeing, though, now a bit of pushback, especially in online comments about crossovers. You know, that the term crossover in some circles is being used as this pejorative, that it's, you know, stupid, bland crossovers, or, you know, I've even seen some other Enthusiast magazine editorials, you know, just like they were pushing for saving manuals, they were pushing for saving sedans. over top of the crossover. And I think that's just blind to what the market's doing.
It is. But yeah, I mean, I can see the being nostalgic. There are always going to be sedans.
There's always nostalgia.
I mean, a sedan is a classic thing, that this configuration of 3 boxes, engine bay, a passenger compartment, trunk is something classic and a little more gracious about it. So I think they're gonna coexist, but the portion in the market of sedans versus SUVs is gonna continue to shrink. And now we're standing at about 55% SUVs, and that's probably going to continue the trend.
Right.
Well, and the manufacturers theoretically know what people want, so they're building what they think people want, which is SUVs.
Sure, it's very hard to find a wagon nowadays, and I've owned 2 wagons. I had a Volvo 745 turbo wagon. I also had a stick shift Passat wagon. Those sorts of wagons are pretty much...
Which you bought after.
I bought after you bought, and yes, you suggested it. Thank you, Gabe. That car started falling apart the second week I owned it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's Volkswagen's fault. I think SUVs are here, pretty much here to stay.
Yeah.
And as proof of that, we have a couple questions about people who want help buying SUVs. Can you provide some guidance regarding luxury family SUVs? XC90 versus Q7 versus Land Cruiser. Land Cruiser back in the podcast. I want a quiet, comfortable ride, reliable transportation for 2 adults and 2 kids, occasional access to a 3rd row when grandparents visit, and cold AC because I live in Texas. The Land Cruiser seems unbeatable, but an XC90 new is the same money as a 2-year-old Land Cruiser. Q7 seems to be your viewer's favorite, but XC90 also very well liked. A rather diverse group.
Yeah.
Land Cruiser is diverse.
The unbeatable part about the Land Cruiser surprises me.
Yeah, I would love the definition of unbeatable.
Yeah. I mean, it just, when you drive the Land Cruiser, well, first of all, it's really expensive. It's like $80,000 or something.
It starts at $85,000.
So it's much more expensive than a Q7 and XC90. It can go off-road better than
Very
those,
much so, yes.
but hardly anyone uses it for that. And when you drive, and it's actually pretty fast for, it's got a really nice V8.
Yeah, the 5.7 out of the Tundra is a great engine.
Yeah, so it's pretty fast, but it also gets horrible fuel economy. And the 3rd row is kind of small considering how big the vehicle is. But more than anything, when you drive it, it just feels old and really ponderous out on the road.
Well, let's listen to this guy. Quiet and comfortable. Even though the Land Cruiser is like an 8-year-old design by now, it's still quieter and more comfortable than both the Q7 and the XC90.
I like that Gabe listens to the readers.
I know, it's very nice. You think it's more? You think it's quieter and more comfortable than a Q7?
I think so. Yeah. Well, the Q7. Okay. Well, this
Okay,
guy
here we
is
go.
okay. He's talking about Land Cruiser. Probably has $80,000 to spend.
If you've got 80 grand, you can buy a Q7 with air suspension.
A Q7 Prestige with the $4,000 air suspension, and then you're going to be comfortable. The XC90, you're
Even
not
with
gonna
its
be,
air suspension, it's not the same.
Not going to give you that same ride comfort. And the fuel economy, I don't think is probably an issue here. I mean, he's from Texas, probably has an oil field in his backyard.
That's right, Gabe.
Okay.
That's right, Gabe. Every Texan has an oil field in their backyard or a cattle herd. Yes.
I think if he were to drive, again, we don't know exactly what he wants, what his driving, how he normally drives. But if he were to get in the Q7 and get in the Land Cruiser back to back, it's almost night and day compared to you get in the Q7, it just feels like you can just go.
It also feels like the future. They've been updating the Land Cruiser recently. It finally for 2016, you can get blind spot monitoring and forward collision warning. All that stuff's been absent for all these years. So a used one, you're missing out on a bunch of safety stuff.
And it has a new transmission too.
Yeah,
so.
it now has an 8-speed.
Yeah, if his driving style is a relaxed driving style, the Land Cruiser is more appropriate. If you appreciate handling, then Q7
You don't think you could be relaxed in a Q7?
You can, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been driving the Q7 a lot recently. I'm auditioning it as a replacement for the Durango, assuming I can actually stomach spending how much that car cost. But it is such a good car.
Yeah,
the Q7 is a tremendously good car. The XC90 does not have the same level of ride refinement or quietness.
Or user friendliness.
No, it doesn't. Also,
The engine doesn't sound as nice either.
No, it doesn't pull as hard even. Yeah.
Right.
But the interior looks really cool.
Oh, the interior,
on the Volvo.
interior and exterior looks great, and it comparatively, it's a bargain.
Yeah.
These new Volvos are about $10,000 less than the Germans.
Yeah.
We have another question about SUVs. My mom is looking at 5-seater SUVs. We've narrowed it down to the Subaru Forester and Hyundai Santa Fe Sport. The Forester has better rear visibility, but the Santa Fe Sport has more and better features. Any other suggestions? Keep in mind that the roads in my city, Toronto, Canada, can make an S-Class ride like a WRX. Sounds like he wants a small SUV that rides well.
Well, clearly in Canada they don't pay enough taxes, so the public works doesn't have enough money to fix the roads.
They pay a lot of taxes.
Pardon my thinly disguised
Pardon
sarcasm.
my not finding your wit. So what to buy?
So yeah, the Santa Fe Sport is a more substantial car than the Forester. It's a little wider.
They updated it recently, and it feels a little better.
Yeah. But I think in those kind of situations, the Forester might actually have the better rough road ride for low-speed urban type situations.
I think it's really hard to beat the Forester. I mean, if you look at our the overall score and the road test score of the Forester, it's fantastic. It gets really good fuel economy. It's comfortable. It has a really big rear seat, lots of cargo room. It's easy to get in and out of the thing. So it's got like the perfect step-in height and seat height. So it's really hard, especially since it sounds like it's for his mom. We don't know how old his mom is, but I think the Forester sounds like a pretty darn good choice.
Visibility, I mean, his mom's going to hate the visibility on the Santa Fe
Yeah,
Sport.
and it's not just rear visibility on the Forester. It's got great visibility all over the place.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an easy small SUV to recommend if you want a great ride, and it's hard to do because the Forester, for all of its goodness, and its the 14 redesign lost some ride comfort. The CR-V in its I think 15 or 16 freshening, it lost ride comfort.
Right.
So I mean, an Escape rides well, but it's unreliable. So I mean, it's tricky to say a small SUV that is the easy pick for one that rides well.
Yeah, you need to know that coming into a small SUV, you're going to give up some ride comfort.
Right. But other than that, Forester sounds like the choice.
Yeah. And it's not going to ride like an S-Class.
No, not much.
Very few. A lot better than WRX.
Yes, indeed. I have a very specific commuter car issue. I'm starting a job that would require a 60-mile commute each way, but this is all rural highway. I also love the bike and need a car that can carry a bike inside. The car needs to be extremely quiet and comfortable. Oh, I also highly value reliability and fuel economy. Final caveat is I would like all-wheel drive as I live in northern England. Budget is 40 grand or less. Is there any car that would work for me? Lower price medium-sized SUVs like the CR-V are ruled out due to road noise. What am I missing? Help me. That's a tough order.
Yeah, that's, first of all, I have you beat our friend. I have a 75-mile commute. Anyway, but I think
you're not paying for your own
actually
gas.
Right. But actually, that's a good segue after the previous question because small SUVs is going to be hard pressed to find something that rides comfortably and is quiet. I think in these situations, you're going to have to look at the Ford Edge and a Kia Sorento to get something that's comfortable and quiet. And price-wise, if you avoid the third row seat in the V6 and the Kia Sorento, you can land the same price.
Oh no, you can do
a small SUV.
You can do the well, yeah, but even if you get a V6 and the third row seat in a
you're
Sorento,
under 40.
You're still under 40.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Well, it's since he's $40,000 is the price, I guess, maximum. I was thinking Mazda CX-9. I mean, there's the first Mazda that actually is quiet inside. You can get all-wheel drive. It's comfortable. It's quiet. It's got plenty of room. So I mean, that's it's a bigger vehicle than a CR-V or something like that. I don't know how big he wants to go size-wise.
I'm actually taking this the other way, and by doing this, I'm being a hypocrite compared to everything that we said about SUVs versus sedans. If I had to do a lot of mile commute and I was worried about gas money, I'd probably look for a sedan. And there are a few all-wheel drive sedans with a folding back seat that you could put a bike in.
But it'd be harder.
It would certainly
than an SUV,
be harder.
Just throw it in.
Yeah. I mean, one of the cars that I had to edit this question. One of the cars that he mentioned was a Subaru Outback with the 6-cylinder. That's another choice.
Yeah.
And he said that he resisted spending $36,000 on a Subaru, but you get a lot for that 36 grand if you get a Subaru 6-cylinder with EyeSight.
Yeah, I think the six-cylinder Outback really transforms the car and makes it a lot smoother, quieter, more powerful.
The other thing that came to mind going to the sedan idea is like a Ford Fusion.
All-wheel drive Fusion.
All-wheel drive Fusion. You probably won't get much better mileage though than, well, highway mileage would be better, but overall gas mileage probably isn't. That's not a particularly efficient car.
Yeah, that's a nice car. I recommend that car, and a few of my swimming buddies have that car, and they're happy.
I mean, I think the thing is you're missing. This market is missing that you can't, like Toyota doesn't really do all-wheel drive sedans.
Right.
And you can get a used RX.
Yeah, you can.
They're pretty efficient.
Yeah, well, we need a deeper conversation with this guy.
We need a deeper conversation. He has a very, it's a tricky question.
He needs a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of criteria going on there.
He does need a lot of stuff. Last question. Why do you guys have so little love for the Toyota Yaris? I know you guys said it was reliable and efficient, but you guys also called it boring and make it sound like a penalty box. A friend of mine just recently got one. I only asked because if he were an avid fan, he might have been turned off on this car. This is the best choice for him, and he's thrilled with it. Do you ever think that your enthusiast attitudes may turn people off from buying good cars that fit their needs?
Well, I mean, the thing has a 4-speed automatic. I mean, what car still has a 4-speed automatic?
That's not even being an enthusiast.
Right. That's just, you know,
That's like driving
getting with the times. You know.
black and white TV.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, there's just.
Don't drive a black and white TV.
It's, you know, it's so it's slow, partially because of the 4-speed automatic. It doesn't ride very well. The seats are a little bit uncomfortable. But you know, there's going to be a new version in a sense that the Scion IA is going to become the Toyota Yaris IA.
Right.
And so then you're going to have a legitimate car. I would much prefer a Scion IA over the Yaris.
Yeah, I think that the IA proves how Toyota didn't really try very hard with the normal Yaris hatchback.
Yeah, let me preface this thing by saying that subcompact hatchbacks, sedans, they have a hard time doing well in our test because really, I mean, other than the smallness of the footprint, what do they have going for them? Even when you look at fuel economy, there's hardly any daytime between their fuel economy and fuel economy of a regular compact sedan. That said, the Yaris, I mean, partly to me, the biggest flaw of the Yaris is the driving position, which is so awkward. It's like, you know, and but I'm sure that there are going to be people that the Yaris is perfect for them. Yeah, it's reliable. It gets good fuel economy. The rear seat is not too bad.
Now, I mean, one of the blogs that I read sometimes is one called Mr. Money Mustache. It's by a guy who worked really hard until he was 30 and then retired. You know, and you know, he saved money. He lived very frugally. Cars like the Yaris are very popular on blogs like that because they run forever. They're cheap to buy.
They're Spartan and bare bones. Maybe that fits in with his thing.
No, it totally fits in with the aesthetic, which is not to be too hedonistic, unlike me who's considering buying an Audi Q7.
Shame on you.
I know, I do feel such shame. The thing is, the things that we're complaining about the Yaris are not enthusiast based.
No, not at all.
It's not the greatest driving car, but that's like the least of its problems.
Yeah.
It's just that there is better competition, and you can buy a compact car, you know, with incentives. It's not much. It's not much money more than a Yaris. The fuel economy is the same. You get a lot more car.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, we thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.